now that your friends are gone.
This is another fucking writing podcast. I'm Tyler Dempsey, your host. Recently, I was reading, one of the books I read in January was Motel Chronicles by Sam Shepard. Holy shit. If you've not read, oh my God. Yeah, go pick it up. One thing I really liked, there's this little bit, he's talking about this woman, like a neighbor lady, who would invite him over for like lemonade or some shit when he was a kid playing. She seems like she probably wasn't that old, was probably pretty rad. And he remembers, this is back in the day, you know, so landline phone would ring. And he said anytime the phone would ring, she would say, "What fresh hell is this?" And I've taken to saying this all the time now. I get an email or someone's about to walk in the door at work. What fresh hell is this? I've been just kind of dwelling on it, and it's been, you know, repeating in my head. And so I was about to go in my front door after work, and I noticed the doorbell, and I was like, this is almost, they're still around, but they're almost like a relic of like a time past. Nobody uses the fucking doorbell anymore. Maybe like the UPS person. Yeah, there was a time, and you may not even believe it. I used to, like, I remember even in college, I would just get up and go show up at people's house, totally uninvited. I wouldn't text them or call to warn them I was coming. I would just show up and ring the doorbell. And probably they were thinking, what fresh hell is this? As they were walking up. It was a way I did therapy almost. If I was just feeling bad, I would just get up and go like search out a change. And I wouldn't know what we were going to talk about or anything, but I would, like, some of those times are like my best memories, some of the best deep dives I did with friends. And it just made me realize, like, there's so much screening we do in our lives now. Like, everything's screened. You can see who's calling. You can turn your fucking notifications or silence your phone. You turn them off. Even emails, there's, you know, maybe that's the only thing. Emails and our DMs are the only things in life where we can just be shocked. Suddenly something that might irrevocably change our lives could come. What fresh hell is this? But I know that, like, the reason for screening a lot of time is like we think we're doing ourselves a favor, like it's, you know, limiting the trauma that could come forcefully into our lives. But nothing is black and white in life. And I don't know if y'all have ever gone to the airport, but screening is a fucking nightmare, you know. And sure, there's some things that are left behind that should be left behind, but sometimes you get to the other side and you don't have things that you wish would have made it. So anyway, episode 2, second interview. I talk with Jon Berger. We have a lovely talk. I think you're going to enjoy it. He's a great guy. If you're unfamiliar, you should go check him out. Pick up his book, Goon Dog, which is out through Gob Pile Press. It's a recent publication. It's a really, really phenomenal work. Everyone should get it. So let's get going. Here's my talk with Jon. We don't know each other, and nobody knows each other these days. And like so much, it seems like is predicated on like creating some kind of capitalistic, like sellable persona or an avatar in people's lives. You strike me as unique. Again, this is all just make believe in my head or whatever. But like, I don't think that you necessarily came from like upper middle class. You probably didn't go get an MFA for creative writing. You know, I doubt you teach, right? You know, you're not in that like normal lane. And so like what I was thinking of, I want people to kind of get to know a little bit about you because that was part of what interested me in talking with you to begin with. I thought it was fun as I was kind of like, I looked up Saginaw, you know, and it was like, okay. Yeah. And Michigan is like fictional to me. The only thing I know, I've never been there. The only thing I know is from friends I've made who left, you know? So
I didn't get out.
Yeah. So those people whom I've talked to, it seems kind of like a backwoodsy place, even though there's like big cities and shit. It seems pretty dirty.
It's it's so like you have like south, like kind of like I'm like from kind of like upper like mid Michigan or the upper part of Michigan a little bit. not quite north.
Yeah.
Like you go south and you got like Lansing, Ann Arbor, Detroit. You go west, you got like Grand Rapids, and those are like all the places that like kind of like a little more civilized, maybe. I don't really have any attachment to those places. I'm more like Saginaw and north of Saginaw, basically. Like I lived in the UP for a while.
Right
So,
on.
yeah, I'm kind of more the other part of Michigan that like maybe you like don't hear about as much. Probably, I'm not.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the part of Michigan you wouldn't invite to meet your parents. It's kind of like I think there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
So I thought it might be funny or fun because I'm always interested in people who didn't shoot through that luge of MFA creative writing type stuff. Like how did you get to writing eventually? And I thought it might be fun. Like I'm going to totally just make something up of what I think that like your growing up might have looked like. And then afterward you can like tell me how I fucked up and then actually say what happened. Yeah, I feel like you probably like grew up kind of on the outskirts. I maybe like from a broken home, like maybe your dad wasn't there and like your mom worked like maybe minimum wage or something like that. Maybe you read like Goosebumps in 3rd grade. And then by like 5th grade, the people at your school like convinced you that if you actually read and people saw it, like you would probably immediately lose all your friends. So like you probably stopped doing that. Maybe you got into like hockey and then like probably listened to like Slipknot a lot when you were in middle school and then got into drugs and shit and drinking. And then eventually, like when you were in your 20s, maybe early 20s, had like a existential crisis and just started writing. And maybe you didn't even like read books otherwise. I get the feeling you don't even read books. How close was I?
You know what, man? Like the Slipknot thing was dead on. I was in 7th grade listening to that Iowa album. Like
Hell
that was
yeah.
my favorite album in 7th grade. Dude.
Hell yeah, I knew it.
So that was spot on. That was good. No, I definitely did grow up. I grew up like I'm from this small town called Hemlock, and like it's like outside of Saginaw. It's like an agricultural town, so I'm still there for the most part. And I live with my dad, but like no, my mom was like there. Like she worked. She ran like a daycare out of our house when I was like a kid. Like I got 2 brothers. Yeah, so she just like we always had kids in the house and shit.
Whoa.
No, they were both like my parents like stayed married. Yeah. So like that, but like, yeah, we're never like rich. Like it was always like peanut butter jelly, like hot dogs, stuff like that. So we were, like, I didn't grow up like I wouldn't say I grew up like privileged or anything like that. No, the writing things like kind of just happened. Like it wasn't really like anything that was like put on me or nothing. Like I remember I wrote a poem about it actually where I went to this like really, really small like Lutheran like parochial school, like way out like in the middle of nowhere. And I had like this teacher there and he was looking back on it, man, he was really cool. Like he didn't really give a shit about anything. And I found out later that he was like a huge alcoholic. So he was just like drunk all the time. Yeah. Yeah, dude. And he was like a big theater guy. He was like really into theater, I guess, when he was like in college. And so he would read us like fantasy books, like Lord of the Rings and Hobbit and all this shit.
And how old were you at this time? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, you're good. Oh, I was like in 4th grade.
Okay.
So when I went there, I was there 4th and 5th grade. I was at a lot of different schools, just like getting in trouble and shit. But like, he would do like different voices, like for all the characters and stuff in these like fantasy books and shit. And like, I felt like that from like a young age, like kind of sparked my interest just like in fiction.
Yeah.
So kind of, and then, but you're right though. I got into like football and wrestling and stuff when I got older and kind of like got away from it. And then I started going to community college when I was like 19 and I kind of like rediscovered, like I took an English class, made a couple friends in there that were really cool. They didn't really judge me or nothing. And I just kind of like naturally like got back into it and just kind of took off from there.
So how long were you writing then before you ever started like submitting your work?
I mostly just wrote for like classes I took or like for myself. I probably didn't honestly, and then I kind of got lost for a while, like in like my early mid 20s. And then I ended up taking this job at like a prison in the UP, which prisons in the UP are a little different than other prisons. I won't get too much into it, but I had some really bad experiences there. And like basically, dude, like when I moved back home from there, I started writing like just for myself, like just to write. And I did start sending them out. They started getting published. Like, I think one of my first publications was like an expat with Manny. So like And it kind of just went from there, basically. And I was like 26, 27, something like that.
Okay. And were you like reading journals at that time? Like, how did you know about expat and?
I just had like a Twitter account, and I was like on Twitter, and I just like saw. Oh no, I started reading Sam Pink and like Scott McClanahan when I was actually like right before I moved to the UP. I was like, I forget how I stumbled across them, but I remember reading like Sam Pink. Like I think I read Person is like my first book, and I was like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. And I kind of just like started researching them, and then I got into like I had like a Twitter account. Like I haven't changed my Twitter account since I was like a kid. It's like the same thing. It's like I just use that one still, and like you know, like whatever. But
I still have a Yahoo email, man.
Nice. That's classic. You can't go wrong.
True. Damn. So like you read Sam Pink and McClanahan like right before you went up and worked at that prison?
Yeah.
That sounds like, man, just like a setting of sorts, like a dark setting.
It was crazy. Like the area I was living in, like you probably won't even believe, like I was living in like this place called like Gob County. And oh my God, there was like 800 people in this town, and it was super isolated. And like you either worked at the prison or you worked at Walmart. Ugh. And then yeah, dude, that was like or you go to the military when you get out of high school. Like their high school was graduating like 8 kids a year and shit.
Damn. Sounds like shit in Alaska. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay, cool.
I hope I answered that okay.
You did. That was amazing. So yeah, I want to get onto Goon Dog because that's like I read your book and was fucking floored, man. Like I love the shit out of it, honestly.
Thank you.
Yeah. And there's so much I could say about it, but like one thing that I caught, and maybe it's just me, but like it seems like the stories and the settings and everything, they kind of return again and again to how we interact with people when the world isn't watching, like at like parties and like on back roads, at work, like after the close sign flipped, you know, like little interactions with like past partners, like lovers, family. So these very like quiet, kind of like closeted occurrences. It seemed like you were maybe like processing your clan up to that point, or like your own personal family that doesn't necessarily have to be blood family. You know what I mean? Does that sound like it rings true at all to you?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. Like, I don't think that was like a conscious effort on my part to do that, but I think you're absolutely right. I feel like these genuine moments that we have with other people, you know, that's when they take place. You know, they don't take place when you're in front of other people. They don't take place while you're on the clock. Like, how much genuine bullshit happens when you're actually getting paid for it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So,
like, I wanted to kind of create these, like, genuine moments, and, like, a lot of them are based, like, on real interactions I've had with people. And I do embellish a little bit. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. It's like, who are we as, like, I kind of wanted to show people, like, how people are where I'm from. Like, I guess if that makes sense. Yeah.
It does. I'm always interested. Like I'm drawn naturally, I think, to writing that kind of is in that vein. And you mentioned like Pink and McClanahan. They do the same shit. You know, it's almost like you're picking up somebody's diary or journal or something. It feels very risque or something to be reading it almost. It does. And I try to write similar stuff too. I'm always just kind of curious, like, did you feel any kind of anxiety about any of those people that were mentioned in the stories reading your book?
I didn't up until the book was starting to get published.
Yeah, like the ninth inning.
Yeah, dude. And then it started kind of hitting me, and I was like, oh shit, what the fuck did I do? But like, I haven't really had any blowback or nothing. And like, where I'm from, people don't really read books really. So like, you know, for, you know, better or worse. So, yeah, nothing's really happened, but I have been kind of like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't have went that hard, or maybe I should have like thought about that a little more but when I was writing it, like I just wrote it as if I wanted to write it as if like I wanted to write what I wanted to write regardless of who was going to read it or if it was going to be read, if that makes sense.
It does. Did it feel like a really personal thing when you were writing these stories?
Yeah. I just kind of wrote, I just wanted to write how I felt about certain moments in my life or certain parts of my life. I just wanted not really trying to think of the best way to articulate it. I just wanted to write exactly how I felt. And I didn't want there to be any like bullshit or anything like that. And just like for better or worse, just lay it out how I wanted it to be.
Cool. Yeah, no, it reads like a no bullshit text. It really does. Did you like, it's interesting. You just like, I'm kind of sideballing here for a second, but like you mentioned growing up in your mom like ran a daycare.
Yeah.
So I assume you would have like kids in and out and maybe like faces would change and stuff. And it made me think about how Zach Smith kind of like, he wrote about your book. I don't even know if you read that, but
shit.
You need to read it, man. But
I didn't even know he did that.
You got to check it. So anyways, not to spoil, I'll just completely erase what I was going to say since you haven't. And I'll say that like when I was reading through your book, there's a tone that really holds up through the first handful of pieces. And it feels like you're reading a novel. It doesn't feel like a short story collection or whatever. And I kind of like, basically what Zach said too was like, it could have been a novel, I think, like with a little bit of tweaking. It eventually like it veers and goes in all sorts of different directions. There's like this rotating cast of characters. Mm-hmm. And like, did you have a core set of friends that you stuck with, or were you constantly kind of like moving from friend group to friend group?
Mostly. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was mostly in the same friend group in school. I didn't start going like to the same school. Like I went to like a bunch of different schools until 6th grade, and then I stayed at that school. And I was like in like an alternative ed program. I wasn't really in like gen ed very much for like a lot of classes.
Yeah.
So it was basically me and like the same dudes, and it was pretty much all guys in these classes I was in. And it was just me and the same dudes like all day, like in like shop classes and shit like that.
Oh, damn. Yeah.
So like it's like basically the same people. Yeah. I pretty much stuck with those people like all through school. So.
Okay. Did you feel a lot of like similarities between you and them? Did you feel like different from them? Did you feel different, like isolated at all growing up?
That's a really good question, dude. I kind of did. Like no one's ever asked me that question. That's man, it's like a therapy sesh here, dude.
Dude, take a moment if you need to like think about it. I want like answer it whatever feels right.
I felt like I could fit in just as well if I needed to or wanted to. Like I could keep up with them on like all the crazy shit they did. I could go and do the same stuff, like no problem. But then not to sound whatever, but like a lot of those dudes I don't talk to anymore, and I'm not even sure where they're at or what they're doing, unfortunately. So like there was a part of me I felt like I could kind of maybe like I had like a different perspective on things. I'm not sure. A lot of times I felt really bad for them. They're really good guys, but just didn't really have a chance, I guess. I don't know. But like after I graduated, I kind of made I made like some new friends. And then I became closer with like, because it was weird. Like I was in like the alternative ed classes, but then I played sports too. And then like I would make friends with like other people like that weren't in alternative ed. So I did kind of have like, I could hang out with those dudes, but then and then I was starting to get closer with some of the other guys who weren't in those classes with me. And then after I graduated, I became closer with the guys who were in like the gen ed classes and stuff, or like the AP classes.
Okay. Yeah, I wondered if maybe you were like kind of floating around and maybe like a little bit of your personality was getting itched, you know what I mean? But only a little bit from each person, and maybe didn't feel like a deep thing with anybody that you were rolling with or found yourself next to all day long.
Yeah, I think so. Like one of my best friends now has like a PhD, so like that's not someone I would have hung out with like at that time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Was it a hard decision at all to publish something like Goon Dog? And how did you land on Gob Pile? Yeah, what did that look like?
Oh, that was like, it felt really organic. I had just been I knew who Bram was for a while, and I just kind of been talking to him on and off. I was kind of like at the same time, like putting together like the manuscript. And then he was just like, I can't remember how it happened. I think I messaged him actually, and I was like, hey, I got this manuscript. You want to take a look at it? And like a week later, 2 weeks later, he was like, yep, I'm going to publish this. So I was like, all right, cool. And then that was pretty much it from there. So I think it happened really naturally, and I felt like we worked really good together. So
awesome. That was going to be my next question, was just how it was working with Bram and like.
I thought it was great, dude. I learned a ton. I did not realize, like, I didn't know anything about publishing or like putting a book together or editing or any of that. Like I knew nothing. And he was just super cool and really patient with me and took his time and just I felt like we had a really great back and forth. So
Sweet. Yeah, you mentioned, Sam already and Scott as far as like people you've been reading. What are some other books that were like, because I assume you kind of taught yourself how to write just through like reading shit. And yeah,
I did actually. Oh, a big one for me was F-250 by Bud Smith.
Hell yeah, I've read it. It's a great book.
That was great. I read that one and that like got me onto Bud's work. Like I think the first story I read from him was Boss on Hobart, and it's like this dude who's kind of having like a mental breakdown on the side of the road. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? And then I saw like his name like in the bio and I immediately looked him up and immediately ordered F-250 and read that like right when it came in. And that was like, because like some of the stuff in F-250 was like a lot of the same shit I did growing up too. So it was really cool to read that. It was really inspirational.
Yeah. Bud's like he's such a genuine dude.
Oh,
he's
yeah.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
He's straight up like, I messaged him at one point, was like, hey man, like I'd love to buy Work from you, his book Work.
Yeah.
And he was just like, shit, man, like it's out of print, but I'll send you a free copy of it, like a PDF or whatever. Yeah. He's like,
that's awesome.
Dude, super rad, man. Yeah, did that kind of like organically blossom into getting the blurb from him for your book? And like, how'd you get his and John's eyes on it and all that? How did that go?
I just like messaged him on Twitter basically. And Bud was really upfront with me. He's like, hey dude, I'm like super busy, because he works and everything like that.
Yeah, man.
But he still read it and got me a blurb. And I know Bud had he had read some of my work before, like he had read a couple of my stories previously. And we had talked previously. And I had spoken with John a few times too. I really loved his book, Body High.
Same, man. It's one of my favorite books.
Oh, I know. I read it, and then I've listened to the audiobook. I'm gearing up to read it again. It's a great book. And yeah, they just kind of came through for me. It was it was really nice. I was super appreciative to have those two guys who I really look up to blurb that for me.
Hell yeah, man. That's amazing. So here's something I asked Mason this too, and it's just something fun. This is for me, a personal thing that I'm just interested in everybody. You already kind of talked to me about work and stuff, so you don't have to go into that. But like, what's your day-to-day look like? Do you have any like disciplines outside of writing that you try to do? Do you meditate? Are you really into cooking or some shit like that? Like, what do you do?
I lift weights. That's like one thing about me, I don't know, like I had like an ADHD diagnosis when I was like 8 and stuff. And like one thing I've learned about myself is that if I don't have like vigorous exercise, like my brain like clogs up. Basically. So I need to I lift weights and I try to lift weights like 3-4 times a day. And that's like a big routine for me. I was at the gym.
3-4 times a day. Shit, dude.
I mean a week. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 3-4 times a week. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that a day. Yeah. I bet. Yeah. No, that's like professional bodybuilding stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that's not me. But I get in there when I can. Getting a little older now, so I can't lift what I used to. But yeah, lifting weights is like I'm really like I try to be really disciplined about it. So
cool.
I like you ski, right?
I do. Yeah. I do all sorts of shit. I ski, I run, I do long distance running, I do rock climbing, mountaineering, canyoneering. I do a lot of shit. I like being outside, and I'm kind of the same way, man. My brain is fucked. And so if I'm not like exercising my body and kind of burning that shit out, like I rot. I do not like end up very well after a week of stasis.
I mean, I don't mean to sound like a granola or whatever, but like people who don't work out regularly or don't work out at all, like I don't know how they function.
Yeah, I can't even understand them, man. Like straight up, man. Do you have another book coming out soon?
Oh yeah, I don't know. It's probably gonna be out like maybe like spring or summer. Like it's Saint Lizard. It's a collection of poems. Yeah.
And Bram's doing that one too, or
Bram's doing that one. Yup.
Cool. Anything you want to share? Any like something we can expect there, or like just if you're excited about what do you feel? Is it gonna be really different than Goon Dog?
It's gonna be I think it's like poetry. It's not gonna be like, it's gonna be pretty personal again. So it's gonna be kind of maybe more of the same. Yeah, it's gonna be perfect. I think maybe people are gonna start getting tired of it. Like, man, come on, John, switch the record already. I don't know, but
Hell yeah, man. Well, I'm looking forward to it, like big time. Is there anything that like gives you hope? Anything you're like even if it's just a slim or quiet burning of hope when you look into the future? What do you think about?
I used to not really, but like I'm getting older. I don't know. I gotta like get my shit together. So I'm actually going back to school. They got like an accelerated teacher program. So I gotta pass like this test for the state, but I'm actually looking at going to be a teacher. So it'd be like a 1.5-year program for that certification. So that's kind of like that, and then continue to work on my writing. Like those two things are kind of what's given me hope.
Yeah, would you be like teaching kids, or like is this college kid? Like what age?
Oh, yeah, it'd be like secondary ed, so like 6th to 12th grade. So I'd like to teach the older kids, just because like teaching middle school kids grammar, I'm not sure if that's like for me, but
Yeah.
So I don't know. College would be cool. Maybe someday I can get into a college classroom or something. But yeah, I wouldn't mind. I worked at the Refke House. I worked with I did an internship and worked there for a while with like at risk youth for like a literary like camp thing, and that kind of sparked my interest in teaching. Yeah, so I did that for a while. That was really cool.
Hell yeah, man. Well, like I think it definitely seems like through your writing you worked through some shit. I imagine you would feel really comfortable trying to like help other people do the same.
Yeah, as I get older too. I think it's important to help other people.
Yeah, it's everything, man. Like it's gross to just focus on yourself.
It is. It's like, well, then it's just you reach this point too where like, I don't know, like so focused on yourself and what's wrong with you. And like a lot of times, dude, like when I'm having a really bad day anymore, or someone's treating me like shit at work or something, I go out and I just try to be extra nice to people, or like, tip people extra, and that makes me feel better. That's one thing I've learned, or I don't know, just be nice to people. It's not hard.
Yeah, dude, it's like a hack. There's a saying I love a whole lot. A buddy of mine told me a long time ago that's life is short if you give it away. I don't know. It kind of like rings in the same bell, I guess. Like, dude, like we're here to like, give away our life, not like hoard it for ourselves.
No, I like that. That's a good saying.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use that now.
Yeah, steal it, man. Cool, man. Well, we got like 5 minutes. Is there anything you want to talk about?
Oh, I just kind of feel like an asshole. I didn't know Zach wrote about my book. I didn't even.
No, dude, is like it was on his his No Future T-shirt blog. I think that's the name of his website or whatever. But yeah, he just like sometimes we'll do book reviews. It was a great review. Like you should definitely go read it, because I think you'll be it'll be kind of like a pat on the back. Not that you're seeking that sort of stuff, but yeah, he brought that up of just like said he felt it would have been interesting to see what would have come if Goon Dog had been edited into this like novel form, where like instead of the names of the characters changing, they just like stayed the same, and you sort of like rolled with that, which I think is a fucking awesome book, man, and I love it just the way it is. I don't think anything should change, but it was just like an interesting thing. And then when we got to talking about, or you got to talking about just like this constantly changing like community of other babies and kids who were in your house growing up, and just that got me thinking, like, I wonder, how much continuity he had growing up as far as just like the players who were in his day-to-day life, I guess. So yeah, you should definitely go read it. Since we do just have a few more minutes, this is just like me just kind of off the cuffing it now, so don't feel, this might not even make it onto whatever. There are a couple of, I think there are 2 stories, though. The one that like some of the action, or a lot of the action, occurs in an ambulance, and then there's the one where you're like walking around under some bridges, and then like some lizard people come up to you, and you go get like coffee for them and all that shit. So there's like 2 stories kind of had like I don't want to use like fantasy, that's not the right word, but everything else was like really like had a realistic bent. And then there were those 2 interesting pieces. Is that a style you like to dip into sometimes, or like?
Yeah, I kind of got started with fantasy when I was younger. I actually just bought the new Conan Barbarian book. So I'm gonna
hell yeah,
pretty soon. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like the one with my the real ones with the lizards. Like it was weird. Like I feel like fantasy's interesting with like trying to. So like Tolkien, he was in World War II and he was like a messenger, or no, World War One. He was like a messenger. And when you learn about his life, and it mirrors up really well with Lord of the Rings. And so like he was trying to like work through shit by writing that. And like my one friend got shot and killed. That's in that story.
Yeah.
And I wanted to try and like put in this like fantasy element to maybe like try to work through it a little bit.
Almost
and,
like as protection for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like this kind of question in the story about like seeking vengeance and stuff too, because that is something you think about when that happens.
Yes.
Unfortunately. And yeah, he was a really good guy. I met him at a community college, and he introduced me to a lot of like art and writings and everything. Yeah, he just got like, it was like kind of a weird shooting. It was just crazy how it happened. But yeah, I think the fantasy was kind of a way for me to explore it from a distance, maybe. Like look at it like, okay, it's like fantasy, but I'm still looking at the root issue. It was kind of my way to do that. I don't know.
Is there anything like that? What's that?
Oh, no, I was just going to ask, you're from Vancouver, right?
No, man, I grew up in Oklahoma, of all places. Yeah. Okay. And but I lived, so I just moved last May to Utah, which is where I'm at now, like southern Utah. I'm almost in Arizona. But I lived, before then, was 13 years in Alaska. So that's where like I'd like really kind of cut my teeth a lot, because like, yeah, I grew up in a really like rural shithole place kind of, and Oklahoma is like the center of nowhere, it's like completely disconnected from both of the coasts. And I like grew up before, like I remember getting internet like in high school, it's like so you're just like, there's this huge disconnect when I grew up. And I also didn't feel a lot of connection to the people around me or even the place around me. And so I just like, I had to get away. I had like a dissonance that was just amplifying inside of me. And so, yeah, when I got out of college, I moved kind of like as far away as possible.
Alaska's pretty far, yeah.
Dude, yeah, it's really fucking far. And it was up there that like I kind of found myself, and it also like just 3 days before I hit the road to go up there is when my brother was arrested. And that was in 2009, and he's been in prison ever since. And so I kind of did a lot of my like going insane and eventually coming back to love myself. All right, that was my talk with Jon Berger. If you enjoyed, I hope you'll click subscribe, thumbs up, like, whatever. I just created a Patreon page, so if you're into that sort of thing, go search for Another Fucking Writing Podcast. I made it to where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. So trying to make this easy. I don't like asking for money, but this just having this podcast costs me money. Yeah, if you like it and if you feel, it would be really awesome if you did support us. And I'm going to throw up our talks, all the episodes, the video, so you can watch me and whomever I'm talking to fumble around. It's the raw recording of our talk. You can look at our faces. Yeah, that will be available to Patreon supporters. So thank you all so much. All right, bye.